everybody, Crafting Journey here. That Journey Chick on Instagram. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Hey, look, I started the teacup. I was working on this last night. I put sparklers into there's three little hearts on this teacup. That's why I opened the other section, because I wanted to do all three at the same time. And then I put some on the little handle here. See how pretty? So I'm going to be adding them in, the sparklers in different places. But as you can see, it was like a lot of dots here and there with the other colors. But I'm loving this black and white border. So cool. So today, oh, man, I got to tell you, I'm tired. I have been going and going and going since last week. I just haven't stopped. So yesterday was my son's retirement from the military, and oh my God, oh, I'm so proud of him. Like one, I think Deanne, somebody suggested bring tissues, and I should have. My God, I was bawling. I'm so proud of that boy. When I walked in, when I came in to the room, we got there early because we had to practice. So I came in the room, and there were, I'm going to say, about 100 chairs set up on both sides of there was like an aisle and then a lot of chairs, at least 100 chairs set up. So, and my son, I'm thinking, oh, this is nice. And it was very well decorated, and there was cupcakes with a little Air Force ring in it, and pictures of my son everywhere. And up on the large screen, they were showing a collage of all his, different military pictures that they found. And my sons, said, oh, they can't find their certificates. So I'm thinking, certificates, plural, this must be for more than one person. Maybe it's more than one person retiring, because there was so many chairs. It was all for him. And they just kept bringing more chairs in. There had to be 200 people there by the time the thing started. That many people, all those people that have been involved in my son's 22-year career, and I'm going to get teary-eyed. And I think the part that I enjoyed the most, my son got up and he gave a speech, and he had made these note cards, and he had practiced the speech the night before, and he put the note cards down and just stood in the middle of the room without a microphone and talked. I had no idea that my son was a public speaker, that he was so good at public speaking. And at one point, he was talking about how he wished his father could have been there for that day. I'm going to start crying. And as many of you know, his father, my ex-husband, passed away last year from COVID. And it really took him a moment. I mean, it brought tears to his eyes. So once he recomposed himself, it was just such an inspiring. He spoke to the younger people in the audience, and he's such a good speaker. Such a good speaker. Yeah. I'm so proud of him. So proud of him. 22 years. And he's only 40 years old. I'll put a picture here, a couple of pictures of this ceremony and my handsome son. And like one of the pictures is him and his wife and the three kids. They actually gave plaques and gifts to the kids and plaques to his wife. And then they had his wife pin on his retirement pin. Oh my gosh. And all those certificates were his. He got one from the president of the United States, one from the head of the military. Just all these things. And then they gave him this huge shadow box with the flag and all of his medals. And oh my God, I was blown away. blown away. So, moving on because I don't want to start crying. Proud mom. And then I had to drive my daughter to the airport. She was leaving, and of course, so it was an emotional day. But at least I got to spend a little bit more time with her on, in the drive on the way to the airport. So I'm going to miss her. I'm going to have to go visit her in North Carolina. She lives in the mountains and she just loves it there. Except she says there's too much pollen. Yep, I can believe it. But she's doing really well there. She lived before that in West Palm Beach, and the traffic got to be too much for her. It would take her way too long to get to work, and her car was stolen out of her driveway, and it was super expensive for her to live there. She had the cutest little historical home in the historic district. Anyway, I digress. And so, kitten update. They are doing fine. They are living in their little bedroom. I've set them up in Malia's bedroom, and they seem to really love it in there. But they've been venturing out. I leave the door open during the day. I left not while I was gone, although when I came home the door was open. Tootsie knows how to push the door open now. She likes to go in and check on them, and she loves to give them kisses. I'll hold them, and she'll give them kisses. Oh my God. So they're a little overwhelmed by Tootsie, by the affection. She wants to chase them. She wants to play. She can't even think straight, this dog. She can't eat. I I put her out the door this morning to do her business, and I had no sooner closed the door and walked into the kitchen than I heard her knock back on the door. She went right back in. She didn't even do anything. So I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. So I walked outside with her and made her go in the grass, and at least she peed. But she's like, no, 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 I got to be with the kittens. She is just obsessed. She loves them. She really does. And I do too. They're super affectionate kitties. And I think they'll get used to Tootsie after a while. And I'm just gonna, when I'm home, I'm gonna leave the door open and let them just venture out. So they're still getting used to the litter box. I did find some excrement outside the litter box. It was right behind the litter box. So I picked it up and moved the litter box closer to the wall so they couldn't get behind the litter box anymore. So we'll see if that works. But she's playing with the kittens. Oh, there she goes. That's the farthest Pearl has come. Pearl is more, seems to be a little bit more inquisitive than Stitch. Stitch has come out as far as the couch, but Pearl's been everywhere, I think. She'll come back. Why don't you lay down for a minute? Yeah, just chill. She's so happy. This poor dog, she is just thrilled. Tootsie, what's going on? What's going on, honey? Is that your kitty? Where's Stitch? Where's Stitch? Go get Stitch. Where's Stitch? Huh? Where's Stitch? All right, that's good. Go play. Silly dog. Yes, I had to pause to let. She finally decided that she needed to go outside. This is a good thing. I just heard something squeak. They're playing with something, the cats. Cats are so cool, aren't they? They really are. Okay, so today or tomorrow, I don't know which one. Today or tomorrow, I'm going to post the Mystery Diamond painting matchups. Sorry, it has taken me so long to do that. Literally, I last Wednesday I had done the matchups, was planning on posting them, and then the whole thing with Jake happened, and I didn't get them posted. But they're done. Um, so I'll try to post them today or tomorrow. And yeah, sorry, life, it happens. Um, let's talk about what national day is it? It is National Best Friends Day. Do you have a best friend, like a best friend? Um, I do. I do. It's kind of recent, but yes, I have a best friend. So this is the day to celebrate, get a hold of your best friend. If she's close by, see if you guys can do lunch. COVID's over. Let's get back together with our besties. Um, Invite them to lunch or coffee, or just call them up and let them know how much you love them. If you haven't seen them in a while, let them know how much you miss them. Yeah. And, for me, some of you have like lifelong best friends or childhood best friends. That never happened with me. And I think the reason I was never able to form those like lifelong attachments is because I grew up in the military and we were always moving. I lived in so many different places and went to a lot of different schools. So I never really, I think that's the reason I'm like, see, she's already ready to come in. For God's sakes, 1 minute. Stitch and Pearl are running around in the kitchen, and so she just went to visit with them. I think the three of them are going to have a really good time together. They're going to become best friends. Yes, so it's National Best Friends Day. So as I was saying about the whole military thing, I think that's why I've never been able to just have that lifelong friendship. But I've had really close friends, a lot of really good friends in my lifetime. And right now, I have so many besties, too numerous to count, I'm afraid. Boy, you just can't concentrate today, can you? Go play with the kitties. She's like, oh, this is so much fun. Looks like it's going to rain today. All right, let's do Judge, Jury, and Journey. Judge, Jury, and Journey. Okay, so we're doing the trial of Jacob Cayer for the murder, he's already been convicted of the murders of Sabrina Teague and her mother and the attempted murder of Sabrina's boyfriend, Joel Kennedy. So he's already been convicted of that, and also convicted of 2 counts of bail jumping. So we're now in the phase where we're trying to figure out if he's not guilty by reason of insanity, or was he at the time of the crime suffering from a mental illness to the point where he couldn't distinguish right from wrong, and he had no ability to comply with the laws of the state of Minnesota. So the defense starts their case, and they put on the psychiatrist. And interestingly enough, this psychiatrist was originally hired by the prosecution, but I guess they decided not to use him because his opinion ultimately was, yeah, this guy is insane. Yes, he is suffering from a mental defect. He didn't know right from wrong at the time of the crime and had no ability to conform his conduct to the laws. So when you put a medical expert on the stand, and first of all, this is like during the height of COVID. This trial is happening in August of 2020, and so this doctor's like, I'm not coming out there. If you want me to testify, I'm going to do it by Zoom. So now technical difficulties galore. So, like we'd have him on the screen and then he'd go away. And then, like they'd get kicked off their internet, and it was just, It was crazy. But so he appears by Zoom, the psychiatrist. 1 minute. See my cup? In honor of Best Friends Day, it says, there's nothing better than a good friend except a good friend with chocolate. There you go. Sorry. Had a little tickler in my throat. So I kind of felt sorry for the defense attorney because this is his witness, and he's a criminal defense attorney, and I can tell you, a criminal defense attorney is rarely has to do a direct examination of a medical expert. It's just not something that they do, and you could tell he just didn't know how to ask the right questions. Like, he put something up there on the screen and say, so what do you make of that? And I'm like, oh God, what kind of question is that? What do you make of that? So what you do with a medical expert is you go through their credentials, and he did, and we saw that he was quite skilled at what he does. He's a forensic psychiatrist. And he was a former medical director of this facility called Mendota. And Mendota, I had to look it up because they kept saying it, but they never explained what this facility was. So I looked it up. And this facility is a maximum security mental hospital. And they specialize in the treatment of people that are incompetent to stand trial, or they have been declared not guilty by reason of insanity. Now, originally this guy went to jail, the defendant. He went to jail, but several times over the last 4 years, he was committed to this Mendota. It gets good. So we go through the expert's credentials. We now know what this Mendota is, that he was the former medical director of. So he's quite well versed in, people that are incompetent to stand trial and people that are not guilty by reason of insanity. And they really are two different things. Then what he does, the expert, is he describes everything that he's reviewed. And there was a lot of material for this guy to review. The police reports, he reviewed the video and the audio footage from the hospital. He reviewed all of the, and I've got to say, it's a multitude of people that have conducted examinations of this defendant over the past 4 years. He pulled all of the medical records from the past 4 years. He interviewed this guy's parents about what he was like before the crime. So we find out that before the crime occurred, he had suffered from Tourette's growing up as a child. He doesn't seem to have that anymore. And he had ADHD. So we find out that as a child, he had an attendant in school because of his behavior. But he had never gone to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. So this, and the other thing that this expert did was he interviewed the defendant. So what he said was, this guy, first of all, does not believe that he has a mental disease. He has no insight into his medical condition whatsoever. He thinks he is just fine. He does not want to be declared not guilty by reason of insanity. Oh my God, I almost forgot the best part of this whole thing. I'm going to rewind here for a second. Even before we get to this expert, there's drama in the courtroom. We find out that the defendant doesn't want to come to court. So they get him on the Zoom. They get the defendant on the Zoom, and the judge says to him, Jacob, you're supposed to come to court. Why didn't you accept transportation this morning? He goes, what's the point? What's the point? So she goes through the whole thing. Are you waiving your right to be present? Blah, blah, blah. And he says, yeah, I'm not coming. So he's not even in the courtroom, which is probably a good thing. I don't think he wants to hear everything that this expert's got to say about him. So, no, he does not want to be declared insane. He thinks he's just fine, which is part of the problem. He's got no insight, none whatsoever. So the expert testifies that this guy is clearly psychotic. He suffers from delusions. When you're speaking to him, he doesn't stay on one subject, or he combines subjects. Like at one point, he's talking about 3 different women, but he's talking about them as if they're all one person. So the stuff that he's saying, you can't attribute to one or the other because you have no idea. And it really completely explains his behavior on the stand. He thinks he's well educated. He thinks he's like super smart. He's got this manifesto that he's going to get 2020 to investigate. These are all delusions that he's having. So why doesn't he remember the crime? So the doctor says it's very likely that he had a psychotic break. He doesn't remember the crime because he has so many delusions surrounding the crime. This whole thing with this Dylan person and this gang coming after him and him being abducted and dropped at the scene of the crime and they covered him in blood, and these are all delusions. And what we find out is that this case took 4 years to come to trial, and not because of COVID, not because it takes very long to get to a criminal trial, but because many times over the 4 years this defendant was declared incompetent to stand trial. So what happens when you're declared incompetent to stand trial is that the psychiatrist has said to the judge, this person is not able to, he doesn't understand the process and is not able to assist his counsel. So for many years, he was incompetent. So what happens when a defendant is incompetent is they go to one of these maximum security mental places until they become competent. So what happens is he goes to these he gets committed. They put him on an antipsychotic medication till he gets to the point where he's competent to stand trial. So now we fast forward, we're in August of 2020. He is now competent to stand trial. That doesn't mean he's not mentally ill. But that's because he's on this antipsychotic medication. And for many years over this 4-year period of time, he would refuse to take the medication. He would spit it out. They finally had to get a court order to give him this medication. So they would put it either in liquid form or they would inject it. Then he would claim, well, I don't like the side effects, so they put him on a different medicine. And then he said, no, I like the other one better. So they go back to the first medicine that he was on. So, and then so now when they give it to him, they give it to him in pill format, and they have an attendant sit with him for 30 minutes just to make sure he's not spitting it out and he's actually swallowing this pill. Crazy, right? So, we find out that he believes that there's something in his genetic code that must have caused him to commit this crime, although he believes he didn't commit this crime. He's all over the place. So this expert was shown video of him in the hospital when he first gets there, and he's just like, we see the video, and he's out of his mind. He's out of his mind. He's covered in blood. He has no idea why. He won't tell anybody his name, and he keeps saying, "What did I do? Why am I here?" And he's mumbling all this weird stuff about Ike and killing Ike, and nobody knows. Nobody knows who Ike is. There's no Ike. But not talking about the crime that he just committed. So this is where the defense attorney says, "Well, what do you make of that?" So the psychiatrist says, "Well, what I see in this video is that I see someone that's very frightened, very anxious, and very psychotic." So then the hospital administers him the ketamine, and he kind of calms down. And this is when he starts having like these flashes of memory. And the psychiatrist said he's always been very consistent about what he remembers of the crime. For example, being in the garage, seeing Sabrina being stabbed off in the distance. He's always been very committed to that story. But doesn't recall anything else. So he has all these delusions surrounding the actual crime, about what he thinks happened, and he's been real consistent about that. So the ultimate opinion of this psychiatrist is, yes, he has schizophrenia, he's psychotic. Will that ever get better? Perhaps. This doctor believes that at this point he's on enough antipsychotic medication to make him competent to stand trial, but doesn't believe the dosages that he's taking are at the level that would prevent him from being violent again. Like, he needs to be heavily medicated to really get rid of this psychosis. And how did he put it, to bring him to a point where he's in remission. Like, he'll always be mentally ill, but and what this gentleman says, it may never happen, but if it does happen, he may at some point start remembering what he did, the truth of what he did, but there's no guarantee. And the psychiatrist also mentioned that when people are declared not guilty by reason of insanity, they often and they will stay in these facilities and they're evaluated every 6 months. Have they, are they in remission? Are they on enough medication? Do they have insight into their condition? Is it, are they going to be a danger to, the outside community? And if the answer is no, they stay there. And oftentimes, he says, these people will stay there longer than their actual sentence would have been. And the prosecution on cross-examination says, well, that, we know he's been convicted of murders. He's got life in prison. And the psychiatrist says, well, and I know that doesn't mean life. He could get out in a few years with good behavior. And he also said that being in an actual jail population is very untherapeutic. He would probably not take his medication and very likely be very violent. So he cannot be in a general population prison. He can't. So if he's declared not guilty by reason of insanity, it's likely that he will stay in this maximum security mental hospital for a very, very long time. And everything that the psychiatrist was saying kind of made sense based on what we heard when the defendant was on the stand, you know, these delusions that he has. That he didn't commit this crime. And the other interesting fact was, you know, you can have, he says, oftentimes someone that has schizophrenia, it doesn't manifest itself until you're in your early 20s, which we know when he committed the crime, he was 22, I think. So it's not something you would see in early childhood. It does usually manifest itself in early adulthood, which I thought was an interesting fact. And the dynamic, he said that this whole thing with the Dylan and the gang, I mean, those are all delusions that he has. And all of the people that have, all the psychiatrists that have examined him over the last 4 years have all come to the same conclusion, that this guy is psychotic. I'm just looking. Am I done with this color? Woohoo! Well, for now, right? So now the defense has rested. They're putting some additional documents into evidence. Now it's going to go to the jury. The jury gets to decide what they believe out of what we heard the psychiatrist say, what they've seen of this guy's behavior on the stand. The jury will get to decide if this guy is not guilty by reason of insanity. So based on what I've told you, if you guys want to go watch some of the footage of Jacob testifying, or this defense attorney, or the psychiatrist testifying about this guy's condition. But yeah, I knew right away, pretty much when I heard him on the stand, that he was schizophrenic. I knew it. He was schizophrenic. And I was a little surprised that he could actually sit at the defense table and be so calm, because he does seem quick to anger. Anyway. So let me know in the comments. Do you believe he's not guilty by reason of insanity, or do you think he should just go to prison? What do you think? I mean, the prosecution made the point that people that are mentally ill commit crimes all the time. And they do know right from wrong. And the psychiatrist agreed with him. He said, but in this case, Jacob, at the time he committed this crime, didn't know what he was doing. He had a psychotic break. He was under all these delusions. He has no memory of this. You know, we don't know how or why he had this break. So, you know, I've always said that, if you're committing this type of crime, you're not right in the head, and which was the point I think the prosecution was trying to make. If you murder someone, are you really right in the head? I would think not. But we know that a lot of crimes occur out of passion. Some are premeditated, but this, yeah, no. All right, so let me know what you think. Is he insane or not insane? Anyway, let's do this day in history. I got a fun one today. In 1984, June 8th, 1984, drum roll, Ghostbusters is released. Who you want to call? Ghostbusters. Oh my God, that was a fantastic. Now, this was a, Dan Aykroyd wrote this script with Harold Ramis. And he wrote it with John Belushi in mind. and it was going to be a skit that they were going to do on Saturday Night Live. But then we know that John Belushi died in 1982, a couple years before this movie came out. So then Aykroyd goes back and he rewrites it um, so that Bill Murray could play this same part that he had intended for John Belushi. So he writes it for Bill Murray, and Bill Murray. But and this movie, so the movie comes out in 1984. It didn't come out as a skit on SNL. So they pick it up, they make a movie. It's a blockbuster movie. It was second in gross sales that year, next to Beverly Hills Cop, which was also a great movie. Um, but the critics loved this movie, even though it was, they said that all the special effects usually cause the comedic value of something to fade, but in this case it didn't. And it's a classic. If you have not seen this movie, it's just funny. It's just downright funny. And they're playing the part of these. They're all parapsychology professors that lose their grant, so they decide they're going to become paranormal investigators, and they're going around ghost busting, finding ghosts and getting rid of them. It's just crazy. And then there's this super ghost that they chase after at the end, who looks like a big marshmallow man, and it's just a classic movie. And I enjoyed that. Let me think what I was doing in '84. Having a baby. My daughter was born in '84. In fact, oh my gosh, this came out in June of '84. My daughter was born in July of '84. So yeah, it's been a while since this movie was released, but it's still out there. Find it, watch it with your best friend. There you go. Watch it with your bestie. All right, guys, that is the show for today. I have yammered on long enough. So I'm going to put up another giveaway. Look out for that. And I'll see you all. Love you. Bye. Good luck with your steps. Take care, everybody.